One power, and one of the names for that power is life, which is why every week we start off by reminding you that such is the nature of life, that all it asks and all it wants is the opportunity to appear. You're that opportunity. So it is. You know, that opportunity of life flowing through you is the answer to so many questions when you really sit back and spend some time thinking about it. Because it answers the questions of why should we accept you for who you are instead of who you should be or who you are trying to be? And why should you accept yourself for who you are? Because who you are is the very essence of that power moving through life. It is God itself. And it is the one goodness, the one life, the one thing bringing good to you in every way, shape, and form. So because we know who you are, we know you're an expression, a divine idea in that mind, in that life, in that one power. How can we do anything except honor you and recognize you and celebrate you? Because see, whether you believe in you or not, we do. I do. I believe in your ability to find joy in any situation. I believe in your ability to find peace in the midst of the greatest turmoil. I believe in your ability in finding those things, to find ease and grace and prosperity. And finding those things within you and expressing them on the outside, you're able to make huge change in the world just from your meditation chair, if nowhere else. So that kind of power, that kind of goodness that's flowing through you is omnipotent. It means it's all powerful. It's all knowing, which means it knows everything. The wisdom of the universe is available to you. And it is omnipresent. It's right with you right now. All you have to do is think about life. All you have to do is recognize the I am. As soon as you name that as yourself, I am, however you fill that out after that, the truth is you are alive and well and moving through life because this power is expressing itself as you. So you've got the whole universe supporting you as you move through. So we welcome you to our center. This is a place where you can expand that idea, grow those ideas, and learn how to live with that as your central focus, your central motto. That's why the first step in treatment is declaring what is. What is that God is all there is. The second step is you're it. So today we are continuing our exploration of this idea of you learning to expect your good, because the good is already flowing through you, so you learn to expect it. And we're going to go deeper into that as the day goes on. But for right now, we want you to learn a little more about who we are and what we believe, and here it is in our Declaration of Principle. I believe
in one God,
one absolute power and first cause to all things.
I believe that this power is perfect love
and creates out of a desire to express love.
I believe all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates my personal experience.
I believe in the unity of all life
and the immortality of the individual soul,
forever unfolding.
I believe
in the eternal goodness,
the eternal goodness of God,
the eternal loving kindness,
and the eternal givingness of God to all.
And so it is.
And so it is.
And so it is. And so it is. So those are some of what we believe. The full Declaration of Principle, which is much longer than that, is available on our website. You can take a look at that. And one of the ways we present that is not as a dogma so much as it is an opportunity to look at it and decide, is this something that I believe or want to believe or might change or affect my life if I did believe it? So take some time with it at some point and spend some time thinking about it, because it's what you're thinking about and where you're putting your focus that matters. So today we have a delight to have one of our practitioners with us to share some words on the word and to bring a spiritual mind treatment, which is an affirmative prayer. And so I will give you Lee Huffman. He's also our president.
Thank you, Reverend Dean. It is wonderful to be here again. And as Bob said, the spiritual mind treatment is simply an affirmative prayer. It is a statement of an affirmative statement, a positive statement of what really is. And there are lots of prayers like this in the Bible and in other texts. So I want to read some of the things that Ernest Holmes said in the textbook. And it is really important to understand that we are powerful, because we, as Bob said, God is omnipresent, which means God is within each of us, and God is part of each of us. So in the textbook on page 211, he talks about the power of the word. And let me just read it here. Be specific in treating. So when you're doing your spiritual mind treatment, be specific in your prayer. Be direct and definite in your mental work, because that's what it is. It's a mind treatment. You are dealing with intelligence, so deal with it intelligently. Treatment must realize that the patient, if I'm treating myself, I am perfect. If I'm treating with someone else, they are perfect. We must recognize that the word has power. All of the major philosophies and faiths say that in the beginning was God. In the beginning was the Word, and that the Word is powerful, as Reverend Dean was talking earlier. It was all in the beginning, and it created out of love. Now I've lost my place. The patient is perfect. The Word is power, and you must know that it breaks down every man-made law and cast it out. So it is above all things. That it is the law of harmony and the recognition and presence of good. That itself, within itself, is unbounded and equipped with the power to execute itself. And it must know that it does this. It must know that there is nothing that can change it, that there is no belief which can hinder it, that it cannot be reversed, misplaced, mislaid, neutralized, or destroyed by any opposition. That is the power of the word. That it does the thing it is supposed to do. Treatment does the thing that it is supposed to do. And it must know that it is continuous and unremitting and will operate until it does what it is supposed to do. Jesus, the Master, said, "Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away at all." And Isaiah understood something of the same sort when he said, "So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth, it shall not return unto me void." So when we do treatment, our words do not come back to us void. They go out into the universe, and the universe says yes to everything that we say. So we need to be very direct, very impeccable with our words. So this is what the textbook says. One of the places that talks about treatment and how important it is And there's another talk. I had a talk with a minister last week, and he said that treatment, we have to be careful of our words. Even if we're not thinking about treating, we are speaking words into the universe. So words are powerful, and we can say good things. So let's have a spiritual mind treatment, and let's understand that we have the power in our words that the universe has, and it is free and available to us. So take a deep breath and let's relax a bit, and we're going to go into an affirmative prayer. And know this with me, if you will. I know that there is one God, one Creator. It is called by many names. I choose to call it the Word. It created everything out of love. It created everything out of itself. It created everything out of its spoken word. I am one with Source. I am one because I was created by Source. All thought is creative. I know that all my thoughts create the world around me. So my thoughts are very creative. And I have to be careful of my thoughts, so I am. And the power of the Source creates through me, and I create through it. The power of this world is no match for Source, because this world was created by Source. When I see the truth, I see perfection. I know that the Source sees only perfection. In every aspect of my life, I see what is perfect, and that it is going that way because it is already that way. Everything else is an illusion. In my health, I see perfection. In my relationships, I see perfection. In my finances, my family, my friendships, and more, I see only perfection in everything, and I know that that is what Source has for me. So we create it together. I attract it to me through my thoughts, through my words. Nothing can keep me from the perfection in my life because I see it and it manifests. My thought is creative, and I remind myself daily to think. No, I remind myself daily to know that perfection is mine. It is in this, my life gets better every moment of every day. All that I deserve and desire becomes mine through the Spirit of Source. I know that it is true, and I receive it. I bring perfection to me, and I see it in my life. And I see it for those I work with and those within the sound of my voice. So these words do not escape my lips and return to me void. They come back with power. So together we say, and so it is.
Aha, thank you. Look that guy up online if you're looking for children's songs that carry the message of new thought and the message of these ideas that we teach. He brings a great deal of joy and goodness, and maybe not the best production value, but sometimes it's the heart part that matters. So I invite you to and encourage you to consider that. Today we're looking at maybe a hard question or a hard issue, because we're talking all month about expecting your good. We do that in this teaching all the time. We teach about the goodness of life, and that we are here to expect our good. We expect our good from the world. We expect our good with each other. We expect good all the time. If we didn't, we wouldn't be so upset and disappointed by things that aren't what we think of as good that are in the world. So, I want to share a story with you, and you may notice I've shifted a bit. I decided to sit down because I'm sharing a story that is very ancient. And in the ancient days, when you read sacred scripture, you stood, and when you taught, you sat down. So I'm sitting down because I want to sit down here and have a talk with you. I want to share with you some ideas about this whole business of what do you do? What happens? What is it all about when the bottom falls out? And my story is about, it's not my story. It's a story I first heard when I was very young. I was a kid. I was a child. That's probably one of the kind of children's song at the beginning today. And what I found, or when I first heard this story rather, it resonated with me in some very powerful ways. And while many stories from my childhood have since dropped away, and I've since taken a look at them and said, "Oh no, not me," that's not the truth for me. This one has stuck, and it's from. Well, you'll know where it's from. The story goes that there's a young man. He's born into a large family with several older brothers and much older. He was kind of like the child that came along later when his father was very, very far up in years. And the father doted on him a lot because he saw something in this boy. He saw something that was different. He saw something that wasn't like the rest. And so he doted on him when he sent the older brothers off to take care of the sheep in a pasture far away across the mountains in a different place. He didn't let the boy go. The boy stayed with him. And as he got older, he decided that, or as the boy got older, he decided it was time for him to go and bring some good gifts to his brothers. So he dresses him up in a colorful coat, the coat of many colors. The story says. It's been translated into a modern musical called "The Coat the Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat," which by now you know who I'm talking about, if you know any of the biblical materials. And so he goes to his brothers, and they see him coming from quite a ways off because he's got on this bright colored coat, unlike most men at that time would be wearing. He wasn't dressed like everybody else. And they started making up stories in their head. You know how we do that when we see something that's out of the ordinary and something we kind of don't know about and don't want to know about, or maybe we just don't understand. So they started making up the story that in their heads that this was Dad's favorite, and Dad liked him more than them, and the best way to get Dad's attention back would be maybe to get rid of this kid. So when he gets there and brings the food and the gifts, they take that, they strip his coat off, and they throw him in a pit. Talk about the bottom falling out. You go immediately from thinking you're about to be welcomed in as the wonderful person you've come to believe yourself to be, and instead you're thrown in the pit by the very people that you think should love you. I don't know about you, but I've had that experience. I first had it the first time when my father died, and all of a sudden, I was 7 years old, but I remember clearly when I heard that news thinking, oh my God, I'm on my own. What am I going to do? Now, people weren't turning against me by any means at that point, but they didn't know what to do with the 7-year-old who had just lost his dad because Dad was the primary caregiver for me. Wow. Talk about him being in the pit. I was in the pit. You've probably been in the pit. A lot of people were thrown in the pit 3 years ago when COVID hit. 3.5 years ago now. We closed centers, we shut down, we stayed home. We suddenly went from being out in the world having a grand old time to being, oh my God, we can't leave our house without fear of dying. And sadly, many people did. So we all know what it's like when the bottom falls out. If you're standing over a pit, when the bottom falls out, you end up the pit. So what did Joseph do? Well, there wasn't anything he could do. Except at some point, a caravan is going by of traders on their way to Egypt to sell their goods and buy more goods take them back to wherever they came from. And so they pulled him out of the pit, sold him to the caravan, and sent him on his way. They were done with him. You know, many of us would like to do that with the things in our lives that have fallen in the pit, the parts of our lives that may seem to be troublesome and difficult. We'd love to get rid of them. We'd love to just pull them out of us and throw them away. I used to say that about a lot of different parts of me, and I won't go into those details. I'll spare you that pain or humor. Yeah, I mean, think about it. You wish you could get rid of your addiction to food, or your addictions to this, or your addictions to that. You wish you could get rid of that part of you that just gets mad as hell about things, and you can't seem to control it. You wish you could get rid of your resentment of other people. So you try to get rid of the thing you resent. You try to get rid of the things that represent all of those stories within you. And it may appear for the moment that they're gone. But as we'll see in the rest of the story, they aren't. So how do you get out of the pit yourself if you don't have anyone to pull you out? I have several thoughts about that. One of them is from a talk I heard years ago at our gathering at Asilomar, ours being Center for Spiritual Living. And I heard a minister say, you know, sometimes, actually it was Carol Carnes, you can't get out of the pit. You can't get out of it. If you fall in a well and you just can't get out, and you feel like you're surrounded by walls that keep you from growing and growing and doing what you want to do because you're drowning in this well, instead of trying to climb out and claw your way out of the well, sometimes the best thing to do is to dive deep. Dive deep into the well. Dive deep into that which seems to be the problem, seems to be the limit, seems to be the thing holding you back. And she went on to say that, you know, it seems that the very best thing that happens with that is that you'll find at the bottom of the well, if you explore it deeply enough, you'll find at the bottom of the well a trap door that leads you out into the light. I know that's true for addictions. I know you never cure it by pretending it's not there, by trying to push it aside. You never heal from an addictive process without diving into the depth of it and owning and speaking about and thinking about and yes, praying about what it means, writing about. I was early in this teaching when I began to remember some early childhood horrors. And when I started remembering them, I had had them shut off for a long time. But one of the things that this teaching does is it teaches us truth. It invites us into the deeper truth of who we are. Well, I can no longer ignore those parts of me that were the truth of my experience. And it took some sorting out to discover they weren't the truth of who I am. But I had to dive deeply into them. I had to dig down in the bottom of that pit and look at it and admit it and own it and recognize the things that had happened and the people that were involved. I had to do a lot of forgiveness work. I turned to Louise Hay to work with the forgiveness parts. I turned to others within our teaching. I hung on to the work of Ernest Holmes with the idea that there's one power. That power is for good, and that power is within me and within each of us. Therefore, it is always available. So no matter how dark things may have seemed, and they got pretty dark for a while, no matter how deeply I might go into the pain of all of that, I would never be left there or stuck there because there was something else alive and well in me. And as I began to remember and work with these things as they came to mind, I called them furballs at the time. It was like things would pop up and start showing up in my life, and I couldn't cough them out, and I couldn't get rid of them, and I couldn't make them go away. But as I began to really take a look at each one, when it showed up, I wasn't forcing anything. It disappeared. Now, I know I'm being kind of abstract here, but I'm doing that because I suspect within you, if you've been through any kind of traumatic healing, you know what I'm talking about. You know what those fur balls are like. And you got to get them up and out and be done with them, and they dissolve and go away. And over time, there were few fur balls that ever showed up again around those old issues. Because as you go deeper into it, what happens is you shine the light of consciousness on them, the truth reveals itself, and they dissolve if they are not of the truth. So I went from feeling like a victim and being a victim and having been victimized for sure, to surviving and being proud that I was a survivor of this, that, and the other. And from there right on into thriving. And then after a while, those things weren't even a part of my story anymore, or my self-awareness. So getting out of the pit often means diving deep into it and facing what's in that pit with you. I'm sure young Joseph was not a happy camper at the bottom of that pit. We don't have any record of what he thought about and what he talked about or how he processed. But if he knew anything about who he was, I'm sure he brought all that into question. I'm the special one. Why am I in the pit? You ever have that moment? I did everything right. Why am I in the pit? I'm a good religious scientist. I practice treatment every day. I do all the things I'm supposed to. Why are bad things still happening to me sometimes? See, and that question gets you nowhere, because that just leads to blaming yourself or blaming God, and blame never gets us anywhere. Blame just goes a whole nother way. Blame just says there's something wrong here, and we got to figure out who's wrong and what's wrong. Where the way out of that and through that is to simply turn that around and go, who am I that I can transform this? Where and how do I use that word within me, that belief within me, that faith within me, to find a better way, to see a better path? And whatever his process was down in the hole, the brothers eventually dragged him out and sold him to the caravan. So now he goes from being the blessed son to the slave. And so they take him to Egypt. And because he sounded and looked and probably was a little more articulate than some of the people, they sold him to a man, a landowner, a slave owner, who was also the assistant to the Pharaoh and in charge of the money. He was a tax collector. And rather than putting him out in the field to work, he recognized within Joseph something that his father had seen, Joseph's father had seen. And in recognizing that something within him that was great and good and powerful, he put him to work keeping the books, helping with that, and scribing the books. And as the story goes, Joseph came up with some great ideas on how to manage money. He also, whenever there was a time of great plenty in the harvest in Egypt, Joseph recognized that they needed to store it and hold it back, not eat it all, but modify it and plan it. And so Joseph did. He suggested this to his owner, and the owner saw the value in it. And eventually, as he continued to grow, Joseph became a man of great power and great influence in the Egyptian world, and apparently at some point was released from his slavery, from his servitude. But in the meantime, he had become the person in charge of all of that. And the day came when the famine was so great in the area that only Egypt, with its great storehouses of grain, had food for their people. And so the brothers who were off still taking care of their sheep, doing the same old thing they'd done forever, came and to get food in Egypt. They said, we're starving. Let's go down to Egypt and get some food. And much to their surprise, the person in charge recognized them. They didn't recognize him. He was so far out of their scope of understanding. But the powerful within recognized them. And so Joseph fed them. He invited them into his home. Later, he reveals who he is and sends them. And they're, of course, ashamed and embarrassed and upset. But there's nothing from Joseph other than appreciation. And so he sends them back to get their father, who is still living, brings him to Egypt. And I don't know if they all live happily ever after or not, but the story sort of wraps up there. And see, there's a whole lot in this story for us as New Thought folks, and folks who know the truth about what life is really about, what the truth as we understand it. That there's one power, that power lives within each of us, that it expresses as each of us. See, who you really are and what you really are about only gets refined and brought forward through the bottom falling out of any part of your life. It is not a matter of you being punished. It's not a matter of there being something wrong with you. It's not even a matter of your crazy thinking, if that's what you want to go with that. What's in your consciousness? It's a matter of allowing yourself to be refined, and your thinking and your truth and your faith to be refined. I was reading some articles on Medium yesterday, and I read about a young man who laid out like three secrets to living a good life, 3 hobbies you should have. And the first one was about the hobby of clarifying the truth and clarifying what you believe and clarifying your mind. And he said he came to that because he had grown up with extensive anxiety. And the anxiety motivated him to find solutions other than going to a doctor and getting treated, although he did that too, apparently. But as he grew into adulthood, he took charge of what was happening, of what was in the pit of his anxiety. And he began to work with it. And he created a life of ease and joy and freedom for himself as a result of what he learned about himself from the anxiety. Think about that. See, who Joseph truly was did not ever get dimmed by his experiences. There's some other parts of the story. We're not going into all that. But what remains true from the beginning to the end is he's recognized as someone unique and someone special. And all the way through the story, that keeps showing up again. It cannot be hidden. There's another thing in the I think it's the New Testament that talks about don't hide your light under a bushel. You can't, folks. You can't. You can try. Who you are shines through no matter what. And especially when you use your gifts. And by gifts, I mean those things in you that are automatic. That are just what you do because you do it because it's fun. Not because it's easy or you've struggled to make it happen or you're trying to become the great or whatever that you want to become, but because this is who you are naturally. Just be it. And do it. And you'd be amazed when you're doing that how effortless it may feel and how recognized it is by the world around you. People love recognition and recognizing the goodness in other people. They may not say that, but you may get is the competition and all those other crazy things that happen in the world. But the truth is, underneath it all, it's all about the joy of recognizing someone's good, someone's power, someone's love, someone's ability to create. I experienced that during a period of time where I went wandering in the in the wilderness. I had time off. I was between centers, and I wanted to take some time off, so I did my walkabout, as I call it, uh, in 1999 into 2000. And in 2000, I found myself stranded at the Grand Canyon. Well, not a bad place to be stranded, except if you don't have any money. I didn't have enough money to buy a permit to go down in the canyon and hike. So there happened to be guys behind me in the line that said, well, you know what? You've got a campsite, right? I said, yep. Well, we can't get a campsite because they're RUs. So will you share your campsite with us, and we'll share our ticket with you? And I'm like, perfect. So we went and we did that. We had a great time. And I figured out when I came back from the hike that I could be stuck there, but what would I do in that hole? I thought, well, it's spring. They're hiring for the summer. Maybe they have a spot for me. So I went in and talked with the person doing the hiring, and she laughed when she heard about my credentials. And she's like, we got PhDs cleaning toilets here. I said, well, I'd rather not clean toilets, but what have you got? And she said, well, you're pretty personable. How about being the welcome person at the desk for bringing people into the steakhouse? And I went, okay, what do I get for that? Well, you get a small salary, you get food for $1, and you get to work. And I thought, well, I could do that. And over time, I could save up enough money to get over being stuck. How I got stuck there is a long story, not worth telling. But what happened with that, what ended up being the real power of it, was that I got to stand at my little podium every night. I got to welcome people from all over the world in and give them a little buzzer so they know when it was their time to eat. And I got to watch the sunset into the Grand Canyon every day that I worked. Well, here's the Joseph part of the story. I met a kid. He was in his early 20s. I heard him over lunch in our cafeteria talking about universe this and universe that and universe the other. And I said, well, I used to teach people about universe. I'm taking a break from that right now. Oh, tell me more, he says. And we started up a conversation and got real engaged with it. It was really, really fun. And what I do naturally, no effort on my part. He said, well, can we meet after work? Well, we were both on the same shift. So we got off work about 11 o'clock at night. Went out and sat on the edge of the rim of the canyon and talked metaphysics. The next night, there were 4 of them. The next night, there were 12. And it eventually grew until I had anywhere from 12 to 25 young adults from all over the world, mostly from not Scandinavian countries, from the old Slavic countries, who were here in the U.S. working on their English and on special visas for the purpose. And we talked about metaphysics because they were totally engrossed in it. Had a wonderful time. We did a drumming circle that they couldn't find because we hid in a cave down on the side of the cliff. All kinds of fun things that happened. And I didn't do anything to make it happen. They recognized something in me that I didn't see in myself at that point. And that was the natural teacher, the natural sharer of these ideas. See, Joseph's beauty and power wasn't in his Technicolor dream coat. It was in his heart. Your beauty and power to get through whatever you're facing right now, whatever pit you may be falling into, whatever bottom has fallen out, the power of getting through that, the reality, the ability lies within you. And we at the Center for Spiritual Living Midtown are here to help you do that, to help you walk through it. We recognize who you are. We're here to support you through our Sunday talks, through our discussion group at 10 o'clock on Sunday that happens on Zoom, and through anything else that we're doing here is all about supporting one another and staying in the truth of who we are and living from that place. You are a gift to the world. You are a gift to yourself. You're the one person that's never going to desert you. You can't even do it if you tried. You can act like you have. But the I am that you are within is always present, always living, always alive. And even when you leave the planet and go catapulting off into whatever's next, you won't be leaving yourself. You'll just be taking yourself with you. Might as well clean up what you can right now. And dive deep into who that self is, because it's a wonderful place to go. So I'd like to close by reminding you of something we talk about here a lot. And that is that there's a powerful good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. And how do we use it? We use it by training our minds. We use it by shifting what we believe about ourselves and about the world, and turning it into something that matches up with the truth. But there's another piece of that, and that is that there's a powerful good in the universe greater than you are, and it is using you right now. It is moving through you with every breath you breathe, with every thought you think. God itself, life itself, is showing up as you. And that cannot be stopped. And it's not showing up to make you miserable or showing up to try to make you do stuff you don't want to do. I used to think if you followed God, you had to do stuff you didn't want to do. I don't believe that anymore. It's about following your greatest loves, your greatest passions, your greatest truth. And that's what I'm inviting you to. Because you are wonderful. So am I. And so it is. Thank you. Now, let's hear from Vance.
Thanks, Dr. Bob. And that wonderful little jingle there. If you hit a bump in the road, keep on driving, keep on going. That's what Dr. Bob's talk was about. Being authentic to yourself. And so now we have the opportunity to take these gifts that we've been given and share our prosperity with the center. If you're spiritually fed, this is where I am spiritually fed. And so I give back into that, knowing this. So you can give online at cslmidtown.org/donate or scan the QR code. It'll take you right to the site to do the donations. And if you will, say our affirmation of prosperity with me. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so it is. And now, a special announcement from our board president, Lee Huffman.
Hey, thank you, Vance. This will be quick. Just an update on the transition. This is our friend and spiritual leader, Rev Bob Deen's last month with us before he retires from the center. And we all continue to wish him well. And we have an amazing team of people that are working together to ensure that the center moves forward, and it is going to move forward. We have some great speakers lined up. We have some great activities lined up for the year end. And first off, I just want to thank all the members of the team. And I want to thank all of you for the ongoing giving and support. We have had some technical difficulties, and hopefully we'll get those worked out this week with my email, president@cslmidtown.com. And we're still working on that because my time has been tight more than anything else. But we have a team looking at looking for a new minister, and we're rolling that out. We are working with CSL Global Office out in Colorado on that, and some people here in the Southeast. We are also talking to a lot of people to come, speakers to come, and I think it's going to be exciting for the rest of this year and on into next year to do that. So I just want to ask all of you to continue treating for the center and continue. Let's try it again. Continue treating for the center and continue giving your donations to the center as we move forward. And I want to point people once again to the donation site, cslmidtown.org, cslmidtown.org/donate. Make sure I have that right. Vance, you can correct it if I need to. And on that, there's also a special offering that we can give to Reverend Dean to show our appreciation for him. And so there are 3 ways to give there. 2 go directly into the general fund of the center. The other one goes into the general fund, but is designated for Reverend Dean. So that's the update. And I won't be doing this every week because there's a lot of work going on, but it'd just be repetitive. But we love you all. We appreciate your support. And we appreciate everything that everybody's doing for the ongoing future of the center. And I'm complete. Back to Bob or Vance.
Hello, welcome back. Yes, and thank you, Lee. That's an accurate, quick, and up-to-date report. A lot of people are stepping up to keep CSL Midtown not only afloat, but to move it forward in its growth into the next chapter as it's being created and designed. It's almost like flying the plane while you're putting the wheels on it or putting the wings on it. They are doing a great job. And I am pleased and happy to have had a part in this center up until now. So I'd like to remind you then that next Sunday, the talk will be by Reverend Cynthia Paulson. She will be continuing our theme of expect your good. Let's look then at our closing affirmation. As we leave here, I leave this place now knowing something better than I knew before. I go forth into the world with a heart full of love and a mind full of good sense. I look at the world in a greater way, knowing that I have within me everything I need to create the life I desire. I give thanks for this understanding, and I am grateful for the spirit of life that lives through me. And so it is.